I'm George Flinn, your host. In-Depth TV is your program, and we really appreciate both of you being here. We've got two guests here, Dan Weiss and Grace McLaren, and we're glad you're here. They have a specific program, a special program. And Dan, let me ask you first, because once I ask Grace something, we'll never get a word in edgewise. Grace is fantastic. She has firstrrespondercoaching.com and is a mover and a shaker in the true sense of the word in this community. So Dan, tell me about your experience and what went on, and tell me about First Responder Coaching a little bit.
I can tell you a little bit. I'm the head of school at Born Bloom Jewish Community School, and Grace came to me at the beginning of the summer with one of the parents of our school to talk about this unique program that she's put together, this
Right.
First Responder Coaching, on how to help students and how to help our staff recognize when students are fragile. And we did a program for our staff at the beginning of the school year to train them on how to deal with our students and how to help our students in the best way possible. And Grace really can explain what First
That's
Responder
the
Coaching
why.
is doing.
I wanted to get
That's
the
the why.
why.
Absolutely.
Why we're doing this. Now, Grace, what is First Responder Coaching? What is that?
George. First responder coaching is training a network of people to recognize when a person is fragile
Okay.
so that they do not become destructive to self or others.
Now, this is important. What do you mean by fragile? Let's talk about that for just a moment.
So many times we wait until a critical moment. You're a doctor and you understand if you wait for a person who's having a heart attack to get to a hospital and not perform CPR, they will become worse.
So this is early intervention.
Early intervention is that so many times we wait until we're seeing the tragic signs. In America, we're seeing these tragic signs with active shooters. They have become extremely destructive to self and to others. And we go, what's going on? And all of us are saying, you know what? There were threads of this thing happening before it happened, but nobody knew what to do.
Dan, other than Grace's energy, and she brings energy to any project she does. Why did you decide for the school to get involved?
It's a great question. From my perspective, when a student comes into the building and is emotionally struggling, is in one of those fragile situations, they're not open to learning. And we're in the business to teach kids. And if we don't have students who are ready to learn, we have to find out why, and we have to help them get to a place that they are able to learn. So one of the things that we really wanted to do was reach those kids and find out what's going on, have them check in with the teachers so we can help them with the struggles that they're going through and get them to an emotional place that the learning can really take place in the classroom.
And how do they do this? I'm sure this is part of Grace's idea. How do they do this without feeling being singled out or saying, I need this special help? How do we combat that?
So it's a common language. We have all of our teachers in the building using the same language. And after Grace did her presentation to our staff, and we had staff from 4 other schools who joined us for that as well. After that training, I've walked into the classrooms and I see that our teachers have check-in boards in the classroom. And it works in a variety of different ways. For example, in our kindergarten and first grade classroom, we have a little bead that by the child's name, and they'll move their bead along this string, along this line, that'll either say, I'm great today, things are going okay, or I'm struggling, something's going on. In our upper elementary school grades, we have a different type of check-in where the students take a Post-it note and put their Post-it note on the board in a different category, where I've got this, or I'm struggling today and I need somebody to reach out. The kids don't see the names of the other kids in the class, but the teacher can. So the teacher can go up to the board, they can pull off one of those sticky notes that are on the board, one of those Post-it notes, and realize Johnny is struggling today. I need to go find out what's going on with Johnny and give him the help that he really needs.
So the kids they don't see who's posted what.
Not usually. There's some communication between the kids because we want them to know that their friends in class also have their backs and their friends are concerned about them. If somebody sees that somebody's in that struggling zone, it's not just the teacher who's going to reach out and help them. We want these kids to have the social skills where they can really help each other also. Mm-hmm. We're training our staff, we're training our parents, but we're also essentially training our kids.
First responder coaching. Who can be a coach? Is there
Who can conduct CPR?
Okay.
Anyone who is willing. And you see, when you look at the Youth at Risk survey, George, you have 1 in every 4 student SAD. You have 1 in every 6 have contemplated suicide. 1 in every 7 have a plan. 1 in every 13 have attempted suicide. But only 2.8% are getting mental health. So where are they going? They're talking to friends. They're talking to neighbors. They're talking to parents, maybe. They're talking school counselors sometimes. But we say we need to create a whole atmosphere in which parents, community, teachers, staff all have the same language. And even our plan is that we train the students in this language.
Now, at the beginning of the show, we talked about someone being fragile, student being fragile. What is fragile?
Fragile is a person that can be assessed in one of 3 arenas, just like you have assessments for tests to see, does this person have an illness? Well, we can say that if you have an A score, adverse childhood experience, that this study was done by Kaiser Permanente, 10 simple questions that everyone should know to assess the level of abuse, neglect, or dysfunction in the home.
Mm-hmm.
If they have an A score of 4 or more, it's going to affect their learning.
Okay.
Not only that, but studies have shown that that person is 1,200% more likely to attempt suicide. If they have a score of 6 or more, they're 3,000% likely to attempt suicide. So that's one assessment. The other is the Weiss Health Questionnaire.
Okay.
9 simple questions that everyone should be aware of to recognize the signs for depression. And then the third is recent trauma, recent stress from the Ray at Home study. And so there are 43 listed items. So normally a person might come in and say, we just moved to town and we relocated to the school. And we say, welcome, instead of saying, wow, that's up on the scale. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything we can do to support you? I want you to know during this transition time, this is going to be your support person because we recognize it now as an objective contributor to this fragile zone here.
Okay. So they go from centered and to healthy to fragile to destructive.
To self to others, yes.
And so you see this. I mean, what difference has it made in the school that you have seen?
I think there are a lot more self-aware kids. I think that when I look at our students, there are struggles that they have that we don't even know about. And this has allowed us to help our students achieve more, to learn more, to be comfortable with who they are and the struggles that they're going through. We have a child who placed themselves when they walked into school one day in the I'm okay category. And 10 minutes later into the day, they went up to their teacher and they said, I lied, that's not really where I am. Can I go move my spot?
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher said, absolutely. He put himself at struggling because he was really struggling that day. And at first he was a little embarrassed to share that. He didn't want people to know. He didn't even want the teacher to know. And now the kids know that we're there for them, giving them the support that they need, giving them the love that they need. And that's helping them move themselves later on. He moved himself to struggling. And then 2 hours later, after talking to me, after talking to teachers, after talking to his friends, he was right back at the I'm okay again because he knew that he got the support that he needed to be okay.
If you find someone, what do you recommend in your coaching, in your training, if you find someone in fragile moving into destructive, what do you do?
I think the first thing to do is to recognize it and then to stop the world and say, you know, I want to listen to you. I am concerned. I see some things happening and I am concerned. It is very important that as we listen, I have no problem receiving whatever it is that's going on and I write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am receiving everything they're saying of what's going on and I go, now let's go through this list one step at a time. And let's walk through this together because you're not alone in this darkness. Imagine a person who has an A score, for instance, it's sort of like having a marble going back and forth
Right.
in your brain. And as I'm managing this marble going back and forth, someone comes up and nudges me and I turn around and fist them.
Mm-hmm.
And we go, why is that? What's wrong with them? And I go, no. The question is what happened to them?
Mhm.
You see, we're asking the wrong question. The question is what happened. And so if we can clear out that darkness, they can say, this is what's going on. If a person, and we are very clear, if a person is destructive to themselves, and in every session, we are very clear to be certain that everyone asks partners, have you ever thought about suicide? We need to be comfortable asking that question. Why? I don't know, 45,000 people a year are dying to suicide. Suicide rate is up 56%. There are 1,000,001 suicide attempts documented a year. This thing is epidemic.
If someone out there has a friend or maybe has a coworker or a fellow student or anything that thinks their friend is in the danger zone or really fragile, moving to danger, what can they do?
One is listen. Two, do not leave them alone.
Mhm.
Three, make sure that they're in a suicide-free zone, which means no drugs, no meds, no ropes, no guns. If you have a gun in your home, get a lock.
Mhm.
Police and fire stations are giving those things away. 56% of suicides are because of guns. So we go, I don't care if you have a gun, I care if you have one accessible that people can have an impromptu response to. But they are not to be left alone at all during this time for 72 hours.
So how does that work practically? How do you stop everything that you're doing for 72 hours? And
Well, you have a network of people, and that's why we train a network of people at the school.
that's what I was getting at.
Is
Yeah.
that we're not doing this alone.
It's got to be a network.
Correct.
It cannot be an individual. You
Correct.
cannot be the Lone Ranger coming in here to
No.
save it all.
Which
Right.
is why we trained our staff, why we brought Grace in to do that, and why we're doing a parent seminar on September 12th at our school. We're hosting an event because we want everybody in the community to have an opportunity to come and to learn these signs and learn the things that they need to do to be a first responder and have that network of support from everybody else to help our friends, our family, our students, and our children in the way that we need to be able to do so.
Is this only for parents and students?
No,
at the
this is
school?
open to the community. We're very lucky that we have a foundation, the Sidney K Foundation, that's sponsoring the event, and they wanted it to be open to the entire community. We're housing it, but it's really a sponsored event that we're opening up to the entire community. We're asking for people to make reservations only because seating is limited. And we're hoping to bring in as many people as we can. And if we have as strong of an audience as we believe we're going to, we'll find a way to do it again and again and again and again.
Well, first of all, where is it?
It's at Bornblum Jewish Community School on Thursday night, September 12th,
Kirby and
September
Humphrey.
12th.
from 6:30 until 8 o'clock.
And it's Kirby
And Humphreys. And to RSVP, we're asking people to email info@bornblum, BORNBLUM.org, just to reserve a spot.
Okay. And is there a phone number they can call if somebody doesn't remember or can't email?
265. That's
There's
a great question. There is a phone number. It's on the website.
Okay, we'll find the phone number and put it at the bottom
Yes.
of the screen here. So I really appreciate you being here and appreciate the school hosting this public event. Will you be presenting?
Absolutely. We will be presenting just like, and George, you've got schools are having fire drills.
Mhm.
Why?
Okay.
Because we
Yeah.
had a fire 1958. Less than 100 people died.
Mhm.
So we have fire drills, people trained, tooled to practice. And so we have active shooter training because we've accepted the reality
Right.
that an active shooter. We have to accept the reality that we have students who are fragile. All the
Okay.
statistics are showing that. And if they are fragile, they're not going to learn. So we have to recognize that and be tooled, practiced, and trained.
Well, I truly appreciate both of you being here and having the event, and I'll be there, and we're going to see exactly how we can expand this training. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
Grace
for
and
your time.
Dan. I'm George Flinn. You've been watching In-Depth TV. We appreciate it.